It's amazing how slow a minute goes. Well, here it is. Okay, it is 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order for the Plan Commission. Roll call, please.
Smithback,
Here.
Malzahn,
Here.
Bano,
Here.
Polda,
Here.
Van Campen,
Here.
Meyer, absent, Schnelly,
Here.
and Nelson. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on.
I'll call the village board to order for Thursday, February 5th, 2026. I would ask clerk to call roll, please.
McDaniel,
Here.
Marks,
Here.
Knipfer,
Here.
Kirschdorfer,
Here.
Higgins,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
and Van Campen.
Here.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, which is new business, or the amendment to the Village of Oregon Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use map designations for approximately 2 acres of parcel 0610-313-9061-0 in the town of Dunn from agricultural to institutional. First item, we have verification of proper legal notices, which we've had for the public hearing. We have that. Presentation of the proposed amendment by the village staff, we have that. We also have a public hearing regarding the proposed amendments, so at this time, we'll open the public hearing. We have an acknowledgement of submitted or comments for public record.
We did not receive any comments on this comp plan amendment.
Now, we do have something from some, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's for
That's
different item.
for
That's for
the
later on. Okay,
ADU
thank you.
line.
Do we have any other comments from the public? Any comments anybody wants to make regarding the subject? It's a rather quick public hearing. We'll close the public hearing and move on then to discussion of proposed comprehensive plan amendments by the Plan Commission and the Village Board. Discussion, anybody want to make any comments? It's pretty straightforward. We've talked about this before. Wow.
Everyone knows what we're talking about. Any questions? The annexation will be coming up in the next few weeks here at the board.
Well, at least I got to see the Village Board. Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to item 5 there. It was resolution 26-01, resolution recommending amendments to the Village of Oregon Comprehensive Plan. There are some items in the notation from Elise. I think we've met all those. Is that not correct, Elise?
Yes, there's only conditions for the CSM, the comp plan
And the
amendment is
CSM is something we'll be handling shortly here.
later. Yep. So, yep, comp plan amendment's good to go.
So we need a motion recommending to the village board approval of resolution. I'll get it. 26-02, with the additional items regarding approval of the conditional use, or the, I'll get it.
So moved.
Of the certified survey. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Back to the village board.
Without objection, we are adjourned.
That's,
Thanks, guys.
thank you for coming on down.
Time to drive.
What?
I spent more time driving.
I was gonna say, it's just, you know,
This is how all of you should.
well, you know, and it'd be just an honor if you'd sit in the audience and watch for a while. I'm sure you had enough of those. Hi, Amanda.
Yes, they put on their coats.
Yeah, yes. Good, how you been? Take your time, we're not in a hurry.
Have fun.
They took me up on it. Now I'm under pressure, okay. All right, then we're gonna move on now. We have approval of minutes of January 8th, 2026. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I'm gonna read this anyway. This is for public appearances. Part of the agenda allows, wow, this is loud tonight. Allows members of the public to provide information to the planning commission, including items both on and off the agenda. The agenda allows the commission to receive information and to ask questions of a presenter to facilitate a better understanding of the information. Commission members may discuss procedural matters relating to the information, such as whether the information should be directed to staff or placed on a future commission agenda. However, Plan Commission or commission members may not expand their discussion beyond such procedural matters. Anybody want to talk to anything that's off the agenda? We're going to move on. Thank you.
Okay. She does something to talk about on the agenda. Do you want to talk
If you
now?
can,
or-
okay, then I'll read the rest of the statement because for the remainder of the agenda items, the Plan Commission may not invite in public comment to the public comment, but the public is welcome to observe and listen. The public will be invited to provide comment at that time regarding the any items on the agenda. If you want to do it now or you want to wait until we get into that item. Okay, let's do it all one time. Thank you. Thank you. New business, review and possible recommendation to Village Board of a certified survey map for Hillcrest Bible Church, 752 East Netherwood Street. Any comments on it, Elise?
Yeah, let me get to the right screen here. So, we've seen this CSM before. Something unique here where this parcel is not gonna be, well, that's currently in the town of Dunn, it's not gonna be its own parcel. And then later combined with the Oregon parcel, just the meets and bounds of description of this 2.5 acres, which is part of a larger parcel, is what has been kind of circulated and, anyway, our attorneys reviewed that and is fine with that approach. So there's just a couple contingencies here. Obviously, the comp plan amendment, making sure that that gets finalized through the village board.
Yep.
The annexation, which will happen again in the next few weeks here at the village board meeting. And then just that the ownership is all under one entity. So right now, the 2.5 acres is still owned by the Sorensens, but that closing is coming up here likely later this month. So just making sure that Hillcrest is in possession of that piece of property. And the CSM doesn't have two owners, but is all under Hillcrest ownership.
And I see the village engineer has essentially signed off on it.
Yep, they're satisfied with all the changes on the CSM.
Okay, okay. Typically, what we do is, if it's outside the village limits, we don't always, we just simply take no action on it. But in this case, we need to approve it.
Yeah, because it will be in the village.
Right. It will be in the village, it's not yet.
Yep, but yeah, this is not an ETJ
Right.
CSM, this is a combining with, this is currently the village parcel
Yes.
on the left, and then this rectangle on the right. The CSM will combine those two parcels into one.
Okay. We need a motion to recommend the village board, village board approval of certified survey map for the Hillcrest Bible Church, 752 East Netherwood Street.
Move to approve.
Go ahead. Oh, and we have a motion, I have a second, excuse me, have a second. I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay.
My question is.
Discussion.
Is a question of process. I understand, I don't have any question in my mind or concern about the ownership of the property. It's a question of process. Because it's not yet in the village, can we really do this?
It's gonna hang in limbo until the annexation happens, so all of these items will be on the same village board meeting. So the annexation will happen prior to the CSM being approved, obviously. It's not gonna be signed and recorded right away that night at the village board meeting, but the plan is to have all the annexation items first on the agenda, then the CSM and the comp plan, everything kind of arranged such that there's not gonna be this, you know, 2 minutes
You'll have
of-
contingencies until the annexation actually occurs.
correct. Yep, and the annexation, the ordinance, annexation ordinance approved by the board is the actual mechanism that moves property from one municipality to another. It has to be recorded a whole bunch of different places so that it's, you know, assessed properly with the right
So we
municipality,
don't
so.
need to make an approval contingent upon, we can just make an approval and it will follow a normal process.
Yes, so I was just kind of listing those steps out, just so you know that
Alright.
those are going to be happening alongside or prior to this.
Because ours is a recommendation to the village board, and then they will handle it at that point.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so a motion, and we have a second, and we've had discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Move on to item 10A for discussion only. This continued conversation regarding potential zoning text amendments. The reason is accessory dwelling units.
All right, would you like to give me a little or like me to give the background before we have folks from the public
Yes, we've
come up?
got, yeah.
Okay.
We had extensive discussion, but let's make
Yep,
sure we got
I
it right.
can kind of give some background for the folks that weren't here last month too, but, so ADUs, accessory dwelling units, also known as tiny homes, granny flats, backyard cottages, carriage houses, lots of different names, same thing, detached, small dwelling units on properties. This has been on our list of items to address for a long time, from our affordable housing report to, just recommendations to update our code, which is now 20 years old this year. So we had a good discussion at our January meeting, just looking at kind of background, what do we currently have in our code? What do some of our neighboring communities have? What are some best practices recommended by the American Planning Association? And I think generally was, you all are in support of expanding this, making sure that we're granting flexibility, trying to prioritize affordability, keeping this process simple, and that you liked the EPA's kind of best practices guide as a place to start from. So Sonia has put together some recommendations, not in kind of an ordinance format yet, but just some tables, so we can scroll to that and look at that. And then just wanted to mention here on my cover memo, there's a couple other sections that we'd like to update as we move through a zoning text amendment. This ex-urban residential ER1 district is, it's not a, we don't have it on our map. It's a district we have, but there are no parcels assigned to that district. And just because we're updating tables of what uses are allowed in which districts, sounds like Vanderwall is actually working with quite a few communities to eliminate this district. It was often more of like really large lot parcels that were in town, you know, maybe in the township, maybe brought in with an annexation and not fully integrated into, you know, a normal kind of village neighborhood density, that kind of a thing. But we haven't really seen that, and I don't think that's something we would necessarily want to be promoting, to have farmettes and things like that within the village. So proposing that when we get down to that point, we can loop in that change, and then also just the zoning administrator description that was always under Public Works and that before my position existed. So just cleaning that up a little bit too. But she kind of did a similar table here. So each topic, whether it's which zoning districts are allowed or how we handle owner occupancy, what's common approach in other communities, and then what would we be proposing in Oregon. So we would strike the ER1 there, but all these other districts, it would be allowed on properties that have single and two-family residential. So I asked her about this, like MR8, or is our multifamily district. There might be a parcel that's mapped in that district, but doesn't have like an apartment building on it yet. It's just part of a larger area where multifamily or two-family might be allowed. So we're not saying that there should be tiny homes in the back of apartment buildings. It just would be, if that happens to be the zoning district, that would be allowed. So as far as owner occupancy, keeping it flexible, both units could be rented, both could be owned or a combination thereof. Could also, the owner, live in the smaller unit, rent out the larger home, or vice versa. ADUs would be prohibited in front yards, but otherwise kind of follow our accessory structure guidelines for sheds and things like that, as far as 5-foot setbacks from rear and side property lines. Allowing up to 1,200 square feet, but never larger than the principal structure for size. Height, accessory structures are typically just maxed out at 15 feet. And again, if there's a gabled roof, remember that's that halfway point between the eave and the peak of the roof. If there was a detached garage and a unit wanted to exist above a detached garage, she's proposing that we would allow up to 25 feet high, but not taller than the principal building. So, for example, if it was a one-story ranch, we wouldn't want that garage to be towering over the house. No off-street parking requirements for the ADU itself. Design standards, making sure that it's compatible with the primary structure. Not having subdivided lots, but having them all be on one parcel. Utilities, Lauren can speak a little bit to this, but I think we would allow people to continue to have one water and sewer service to both units if they wanted to. If they wanted to add a second service, that would sort of be their prerogative if they wanted to have them build differently and things like that. Does that capture where we're at? Okay. And then no major changes to our in-family suites, kind of the mother-in-law suites that exist within the code already. And then just exploring that we'd probably need to talk to our village attorney on this too, how impact fees and connection fees and things like that could be either waived or reduced to help make ADUs more affordable and accessible. So she starts to change some of the language down here, repealing the existing ARU, accessory residential unit, granny flat section, and then replacing it with a new section that's ADU, accessory dwelling unit, and then some of those guidelines that we talked about in the table above, and just other areas to change. So that's kind of overview of the changes reflective of some of the comments that we heard. Last time, I will say, we talked about, I think conditional use permit was mentioned before. I think that would definitely not be the direction we would be recommending. One, we're trying to reduce conditional use permits where we can after Act 67, which came out about 10 years ago, really takes a lot of the teeth out of conditional use permits and adds a big administrative burden and cost for folks to come through planning commission and everything. Planning commission doesn't review any single or two family homes. So I think kind of treating it like that, there would need to be, I think, some kind of the staff level review to make sure that the design is compatible with the principal structure, so not putting that on the building inspector, but otherwise it would just be kind of a standard building permit. They're already, checking setbacks and things like that in any other building permit case, whether it's a shed or a new home or something. So putting more of an administrative review and trying to streamline the process. Again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of these. If we had one or two a year, I would be really surprised and pleased with that. But that seems to be the recommendation and trend across other communities to keep the process simple.
Okay. Questions of anybody? Is this kind of going along with, essentially looking at other municipalities that have this kind of a situation?
Yeah, and a lot of municipalities don't touch on subjects that we, would like some more clarification on. So this is pretty closely following the American Planning Association's best
Okay.
practices, kind of tailoring it to our code.
Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion or thought about prohibiting short-term rentals? Do you know if that's done or?
Yeah, I've attended a couple webinars. I know one of our other village board members has as well, 'cause I saw him on there. It's very complicated. There's a lot of state law changing about short-term rentals. I think at this point, it hasn't been a huge problem in Oregon. I think, the recommendation from our attorney was just kind of let it lie for now. There's some neighborhoods that, prohibit short-term rentals and their covenants and deed restrictions, and so it's sort of a private property HOA type issue to have those enforced. And I think if it becomes more prolific around the village, we see more of them, or it becomes more of a problem where there's some health and safety concerns, then we could start talking about it. But it does sound like there's some state law that's kind of in flux right now, so might be best to kind of wait and see where that lands, and then see if there's anything we can adopt.
Thank you.
Where do we go? Now, we have a couple of folks that want to talk to this, correct? So let's do
We
that.
have Heidi Putnam that wants to talk on this.
All right, Peggy, want to come on, please? Just give us your name and your address so that it's got to go on the record, that's
Absolutely.
fine. Okay, thank you.
So I'm Heidi Putnam, 112 Sterling Drive here in Oregon. I am a first-time homeowner here in the village, and like many others, I'm feeling the pressure of rising living costs, and I'm also beginning to plan for aging parents who may need to soon live closer while still maintaining some level of independence. Allowing accessory dwelling units would give my family the flexibility to either provide space for them, or if circumstances change, rent the unit for supplemental income to help us keep us rooted here in this community. In reviewing the proposed regulatory approach in tonight's packet, I'd like to highlight a few areas where additional flexibility could make ADUs more accessible to residents like myself. First, I encourage the village to broaden allowances around design compatibility standards. Many homeowners, myself included, have existing accessory structures that could become ADUs with relatively minor updates to meet safety and habitability standards. In my case, I have a detached garage that the previous owner finished inside and used for a home business. It was built about 40 years after my home, so while the exterior does not match the primary structure in materials or color, it is well designed, so much so that delivery drivers have mistaken it for a neighboring home. Requiring full exterior matching would make conversion financially unrealistic, even when the structure is already well integrated into the neighborhood. And second, I asked the commission to allow flexibility in utility metering as well as hookups, which I think Elise has already alluded to that I was unaware of before. But some owners may prefer shared utilities, while others, especially those planning for non-family renters, may prefer the separate meters. And installing or removing these can be very costly. In my own case, my property came with 2 separate electrical meters already, and I'm paying for that additional monthly fees to have both of them. But I'm waiting for clarity here, because I knew this was coming up, to see what direction the village would go to choose if I should keep it or get rid of the second one. Allowing more options for metering and hookups would help reduce unnecessary financial burdens and allow more choice for homeowners. I also live on a corner where hookups for water and sewer is less distance to the side road than it actually is to my own house, so having that flexibility would definitely reduce the costs for us. I want to be clear that I support the overall direction of the recommendations and deeply appreciate the thoughtful work that has gone into this. I simply hope that we can make some final tweaks to that to be able to make sure that it's truly attainable for a wider range of homeowners, not only those with ideal lot conditions or the financial means or newer matching structures. And thank you again for your time and your commitment to this important decision for our community. Thank you.
Thanks for your input. I'm just curious, how did you, how'd you know about all this?
And who spoke last time?
Okay,
With Green
Michaels.
Bank Pastures, yeah.
got it.
Yeah, plus in graduate school, it was kind of a case study for myself. Like, I was hopeful when I bought my house here 3 years ago, this might happen. So I've been waiting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, thank you. Very, yeah.
I will say, yeah, there's
Very
been a handful of other property owners that have reached out over the years to ask about this too. So I kind of wanted to see where we were gonna land and how quickly we wanted to move on this, but I will start reaching out to them over the next couple weeks to let them know.
And she had some good comments we should look at, yeah, so, thank you, thank you. Next one, Peggy. You have another one?
Actually, no. The other one was in regard to Hillcrest, so
Oh, it was,
he was only here to answer
Oh.
questions, so he didn't really want to speak.
and we have, and we also have, from Annie, some comments that sent through. So you want to share them, or everybody's got a copy?
You want me to read them? or-
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I'll just, I guess,
highlight
summarize
it, sure.
here.
Thank you.
So Ann Michaels from Green Pastures Living, she was here at the January meeting. She sent an email and asked that we share this with you all. Just the AARP, I know I see them at conferences and stuff all the time. They're really pushing ADUs as well as a senior housing option, whether folks want to stay in their home and add income or to live within communities, live with family. So there's just some areas of alignment here, some different sections that she's included. The size limitation, I think, our recommendations, I looked through this earlier, I think our recommendations are pretty well in line with what the ARP is
Okay.
recommending, but we'll certainly include this in the
I
record.
would, yes, certainly consider this. Okay. Anybody else want to have any comments? Thank you. So where do you think we should go with this, Elise, as far as let Vanderwall, us, what do you guys
Looks like
think?
some people
I
have
see.
some
Oh,
thoughts, so.
I see red, I
we
see
have some
red comments
discussion.
written down on
Yeah.
Patrick's, he's gonna have something to say.
For the most part, I'm in support of all of this. I like Ann's sentiment, keep it simple, keep it flexible. The one concern I have is removing owner occupancy. I was thinking about it about a week ago, and I thought, who cares? And then I thought, do you want a bunch of basically duplexes in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
That's not zoned as that. So to me, owner occupancy is a key part of this, and I don't think it should be removed. That's the only thing I object to.
But you'd be comfortable with owner occupancy in either structure?
In either,
Okay.
exactly. It's just some type of ownership, and I wouldn't go so far as saying that the owner has to be there for a period of at least 10 months a year. By law, I think it's 6 months and a day to be considered a resident of a state, right? And so I don't think you need to specify all that. I did like Ann's clarifying the occupancy language so that it could be caregivers and doesn't have to be relatives or, so keep that flexible.
Yeah, and I think we weren't gonna include any language about caregiving. There doesn't even need to be any relation. So if somebody wanted to either do a short-term rental or a long-term rental
Yeah.
and have it be, so I think.
Yeah, I just don't want to see both units rented as,
Yeah.
a landlord that just wants to try to get more rent out of a piece of property, because that, to me, is not in the spirit of what this is about.
It's a good comment, yes, thank you. Anybody else?
I've
Go
a
ahead.
couple of generic questions before I get into it. Has there been any location that you are aware of where ADUs have been successful in being created?
More than just a handful
More
at a
than
time.
just a handful?
I don't know of any in Wisconsin. The ones I've heard about through conferences or webinars or something have been where a land trust has been involved. So people can essentially rent out their backyard to somebody who they kind of take care of all of this. So they rent a piece of property from a landowner. They do the construction. They own the structure. They pay rent to the parcel owner. And as a basically, you're giving us the space, we're gonna put the structure on here, they manage the property, they take, rental applications, show the property, manage tenant stuff and repairs and everything. That's the only example I've seen and really heard of where in a large scale, I think it was, I wanna say like somewhere in the north, maybe Seattle, or California, where they did this to a larger scale. I think the cost of construction is sort of what it is right now, and even if you're building a smaller structure, there's still all the same pieces that you would need in a house, just, less, but that adds up pretty quickly. I think most people end up finding that it's hard to build these for probably less than $100,000. And that's, there's some prefab models and things like that too, and I guess I'd like to hear your thoughts on the comment regarding, what does architectural compatibility mean to you? Is that materials? Is it colors? What kind of flexibility? Maybe that's something that you'd want to give some input on. I don't know if that means that every ADU that comes across, we bring to planning commission, or if that's a separate review committee that can help me with that, or if there's clear enough guidelines, I mean, there's probably language from other communities we can look at and see if that suits our goals.
What, so these rental agreements have to be put in place on the front side. They can't be something that's after the fact as a development, correct?
Like if there was already an ADU and then somebody wanted to turn around and,
Like a typical home here in Oregon, if we wanted to create an ADU in this type of situation, it couldn't really happen because that is not in place, or would that happen?
the land trust that I was talking about, yeah, I mean, there's no, in those cases out west, it was a nonprofit that was a land trust, so they had funds in order to build the units, lease the land from the property owners, they had all the kind of lease agreements and stuff set up there. I will say the other thing, I think I mentioned this in January, that I've seen, I don't know how much this is necessarily helpful, but definitely saves folks money and can help reduce barriers to actually building these, is if there's an approved set of blueprints that there's all kinds of different guides online that you can purchase, various layouts and blueprints and say, these are ones that are already, they're not larger than 1,200 square feet, or here's one that could be above a garage or whatever kind of arrangement, and we can make those available to people, and, if they're gonna build these, that they don't have to go and purchase their own set of blueprints, but maybe there's 5 or 10 pre-approved designs, maybe exterior color choices and materials need to be similar to what's on the property already, but that could be another way that we could help. You would know better than I what the cost of a set of blueprints would be for a building like this, but.
So my next question then is, in your experience from going to conferences or talking to people, what has been the major hurdles for this not becoming something more popular? I mean, Madison has had it for a while, and we brought it up last month, and they've only had a handful?
Yeah, I think it's like 15 to 20 that they've had in the last maybe 5 years, but think about how many parcels are in the city of Madison. So I would say the cost of construction, and then also permits and fees and connection fees and impact fees and things like that. You're adding another dwelling unit, so, the park impact fee, library impact fee, all those things would typically apply unless there's some policy that reduces or waives those fees. I know Laura and I were talking about, like, if there is a new utility connection, you need to pay for a meter and some I think that would be kind of handled differently, but some of the impact fees that we typically see with single-family homes and every dwelling unit that's created within the village, apartments and stuff too. Do we want to think about reducing those? These are going to be smaller families, either usually single people or couples. Very rarely would it be, a small family has a little bit less of an impact than, maybe a different type of dwelling unit, but also our average household size within the village is pretty low. I think it's 2.2 people or something like that already.
I think on the surface, I don't think you would get an argument from any of us that would say that this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's once you start to get into the weeds and go down the rabbit hole, which I did, unfortunately, that you start to run into sort of like those uh-oh moments kind of thing. The property tax issue, the rental taxation, the, impact fees, yada, yada, yada. What, as a plan commission, do we have the ability to sort of provide input on? We can't do anything about property taxes. We can't do anything about whatever. What can we as a plan commission have a conversation about?
I think, obviously you're recommending body to the village board here, so I think we can talk about those impact fees. We can talk about administrative review process, if there is gonna be any kind of, just the building permit fees, where is there flexibility, and that we could recommend to the village board to consider. Again, I think it's largely the impact fees, because that doesn't affect our building inspectors, those just go right to the village. All this policy language to allow flexibility where we feel comfortable to allow flexibility. You know, that language could be recommended to the village board. Another thing I hadn't really considered that you brought up last time was how can we promote this in new development? I don't think we can require new subdivisions to allow these, but I think we could have language, we encourage ADUs to be allowed, and maybe there's some kind of carrot that says if you allow ADUs or you don't restrict them, don't prohibit them within your new neighborhood, do you get some sort of incentive on the other end, or some density bonus, or some waiver on impact fees slightly, or something like that? How can we encourage it? We can't require it, but how can we encourage it? I hadn't really considered about new neighborhoods coming in. I'm sure, you know, Viridian, I believe Highlands of Netherwood, Bergamot, all those neighborhoods, I believe that separate detached dwelling units are prohibited in all those neighborhoods, which is a fair, you know, portion of our village lots. So, we can also, so I think some of the guidance on code changes, you know, that would be kind of chapter 18, the subdivision code, but, or policy recommendations to the village board. I think that's where you all have the power to try to reduce barriers and encourage these to be built where possible.
In my opinion, I think that this is a good idea to sort of, and let's be honest, AARP is a segment of the society that has a whole machine geared to what they want to make important. I think that there's another segment of the population that is not part of AARP that we need to also consider. And that's where I was going with the hotel tax. That's where I was going with the sort of long-term rental agreement, which is something that I think Patrick sort of touched on. Do we want to limit the length of these leases? Otherwise, we start to run into that hotel tax. Otherwise, and the things that we don't really get involved with. And, you know, just because of the nature of what I do, I start to run into things like utilities are easy to get there. Gas, electric, you know, 3 feet down on the ground, you're good. Sewer and water are another one. You know, if you're going to have these dwelling units, you're going to want to have a bathroom out there. And some of the places in Oregon, the utilities are deep just purely because of we're pretty low. So to get a second service to these places, you got to come in from your house. Does that mean that you really want to tee into something that's in your front yard? Or do you want to tee into something that's in your basement? Do you want to bring water and sewer in from those? How do you do that? You know, I don't know if that's sort of the stuff that we can be privy to or we need to dictate. You know, that's where my head goes on these sorts of things. Again, I think that on the surface, you wouldn't get any of us saying that it's a bad idea. It's once you start to get into the weeds that it becomes complicated. And that's why I had asked sort of what is our sort of parameters that we can work within. I think that we need to cap the square footage. I don't think that we should make it a percentage of the square footage of their primary residence up to a certain square footage. I think that we should allow the height of the building to be no more than the height of the primary residence. I think that we should limit the rental term of that unit to a minimum length. I don't think we should set it as a maximum, but I think we should set it as a minimum. I don't want to have it as a nightly thing. I don't want to have it as an Airbnb. That begins to start to run into that hotel tax issue question that we don't get involved with, but let's make life simple for everybody. So the utility stuff is voodoo that we're going to have to figure out, or somebody's going to have to figure out. But that's sort of like on the first blush surface where my head is at.
Okay.
As far as short-term rentals, I'm not sure if you're aware, but so any properties that are Airbnb, Vrbo, that type of listing, those companies automatically collect room tax and send that to the village, I believe quarterly now, so that's not something that's on a property owner to separately collect and send, that's sort of part of their listing, but, yeah, that's a policy discussion about, do you wanna limit, and that'd be something I need to check with our attorney too, can we limit length of stays, also, how is that being enforced? I mean, yeah, I can check listings on those sites and things like that too. Are we gonna limit it to no less than 30 days, 7 days? Again, if it becomes a problem, neighbors notice a lot of coming and going, that's probably how we would become aware of it, I would imagine.
Yeah, that would probably be complaint driven.
Yeah, I don't think so much as a long-term is a issue, is it? Why would that be?
Long-term rental, yeah, I mean,
There
that would
shouldn't
be
be an
normal, right, renting to any,
Again, I somewhat, I'm still looking at this, trying to think, are we, well, I'm looking again as a parents, something like that, grandma, grandfather, and whatever, almost like a relative type thing.
yeah, adult children. is
That's what
another
I
one
would
I've heard
almost
of, yeah.
expect, but maybe not. I'm just trying to figure how we can go about this, and then, again, I'm envisioning, like you, somebody here's, oh, you said that before, John, it's about like a duplex. It kind of gets you to the point where we're putting two dwelling units on one property.
If there's an owner occupancy requirement though, then.
Absolutely,
It
no,
does
absolutely, but then,
change the dynamic there.
yeah, it does change a little bit, but
I think the nature of the cost to do this is gonna prohibit a lot of
you might be right, Eric, you might be right.
implementation, so I,
Yep.
like, the case of having a detached garage that's finished and someone could move in there and live without I don't wanna prohibit that necessarily, I think that's the intent of what we're after, but to build something like that from scratch would be an investment, and so we need to make rules that protect us, but I don't think it's gonna be 100 people applying to do this on the first,
No.
like, I don't wanna overdo it either.
And we get into ourselves, like you say, get into the weeds. I find sometimes we get so far into it that, you know, you can only do so many what ifs.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to move on and get yourself to a point, and hopefully you made not too many mistakes doing that. And you can get through it.
We could change our mind if this gets out of control, we could.
I keep on thinking about the chickens. I keep thinking about the
Well,
chickens
yeah.
and the weeks and
Yeah.
months we went with.
Another point that I've seen kind of concern or, questions that people have asked, and I've talked to the building inspector about this too. So if there is a situation where maybe there's a garage and then an adjacent room or workshop that somebody might look to convert to a dwelling unit, there's obviously a different code for dwelling units than there are, spaces that are not occupied and slept in. And so making sure that if there's anything that's connected to a garage, if it's above a garage, next to a garage, that, things like venting are designed properly, so there's not worry of car exhaust getting sucked into intake for air, in these units and things like that. So, I do need to kind of loop back with our building inspectors and see, if there's any specific building code requirements that we wanna maybe put in this section, so that, as people are looking at this and trying to maybe plan it out on their property, that, they're aware of any requirements to, if it's a space that's maybe being converted from non-occupied to occupied, that it's done in a way that's safe. Fire protection, smoke,
Yeah, I know,
all of that stuff.
You're still 2 units, you're still under the residential code.
Right.
You know, there's no requirement for sprinkler, there's no requirement for ADA, there's none of that.
Yeah, none of that, but,
yeah, and you mentioned about the utilities. I'm not overly concerned about that too much.
I'm not
It's
not
just
worried about sewer and
expensive.
water, I'm gas and electric, I'm worried about sewer and water,
Well, if you're gonna build, you have to figure it out, don't you?
I guess so.
You still have to get a building permit, and you still
Yep.
have to have an inspection.
Yep, so again, we're getting ourselves to a point where let's limit how much, well, I shouldn't say how much we have to say about it, but before we can go through a lot of what ifs, it'll take a year to get through it, and it's just not.
So what do you need from us?
be worth
Elise?
it.
Yeah.
Well,
What
I
do you-
got some notes, I guess I wanna, hear as far as the owner occupancy, are you all in agreement as far as you'd like to have one of the units be owner occupied?
That's-
Um,
yeah, I think so.
Do we want to have
That-
any
that's pretty obvious to all the-
limitations on the rental unit as far as, and again, I can look into what we actually can restrict. If people have, if it's not restricted in their neighborhood, do they have the right to have a short-term rental? Or only if we have kind of a larger short-term rental ordinance in town? I think we probably would need to be consistent with ADUs and all other structures, I guess, within the village. If we want to go down that rabbit hole, the advice I've been given is not to touch it right now, but
Well-
we can dig into it if that's of interest.
We could do a little more, have some more investigation on it, but I'm thinking also, that I don't think we should be looking at this from a standpoint of we're doing it weekly, like, okay, yeah, we got this place for rent, somebody's coming into town to go to horse show or something like that, you know what I mean? In other words, it's not, I'm thinking this is more oriented towards
Longer term,
longer term and possibly family or something like that, or some kind of relationship of friends or something, whatever. I mean, I'm not looking at, I don't think so.
I think we deal with it with like the rest of the properties in the town and, or the village. If something comes up,
We're gonna have to,
Yeah.
yeah, but again,
It's not like we have a globe in the neighborhood.
yeah, from Las Vegas, yeah. I mean, it's a huge investment, so if somebody was gonna do that and then change it to be a short-term rental, I mean, you would think that they would be, responsible with it, right? And wanna have that kind of traffic and coming and going, that would be within their backyard, right?
I'm just trying to envision how
So-
you put this in somebody's backyard. I just, I'm looking at typical village.
Right, I would
Lots.
agree, I think most communities, most folks, it's adding it for somebody who they have a
Right.
relationship with, or friends, or,
And it'll be a small type dwelling or something.
right, yeah, can add some language too about, I think there's already something here about it would not be exceeding the square footage of the principal structure,
1,200 square feet.
up to 1,200 square, but yeah, maybe you say it's no more
That's bigger than
than
my first house, no.
50% or 70% of the square footage of the, I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty of houses that are in the village that are 1,200 square
Right,
feet.
they are, yes.
So, would you want to have one of those also in the back, or something
There's some-
along
yeah.
John's, is it 50% or something
I
like that?
think that capping it at like 1,200 as a max is good,
Yes.
because there are homes that are sizable here
Yeah.
in the community, that a percentage, you could get well over that pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
easily.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those homes you probably typically wouldn't see
Yeah.
this kind of,
Well, if they have a deep backyard though,
true, that's very true.
easily put in as second building.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could. You're right.
Um,
So again, Elise, where do you wanna,
yeah. I guess the only other thing I wanted to get clarity on is the architectural compatibility. What does that mean to you, or would you like to see some digging on what other communities have and see if some of that language speaks to you?
well, we could, but again, there's a detached garage that's been built 40 years ago, or the building was built 40 years ago, or whatever was done. So
Right, is it,
I'm thinking more along the lines that this is gonna be a newer thing, and we're gonna build something new, you're gonna want to
Look
you
at-
want to match
make it look similar to what is there, and make it look good, obviously. Good point, Phil, so.
Although, I mean, I look at my house, right, I have a stucco house that's 150 years old. If I put something new in the backyard, it's not necessarily gonna be a stucco small, you know what I mean?
I
So
know,
I think there's some practicality
Yeah.
to what that means. I don't think it means that we're gonna expect that if you live in Bergamot and your house is all brick, that your backyard is gonna be brick.
Oh, I think it would have to be out there.
Well, okay.
For example, yeah.
For example, but I think it's just kind of making sure that it's good quality, that it's not, you're not throwing
Right.
up some 2x4s and living in a shed, I think is the idea,
Yeah,
would be to me.
Again, you're going back again and
not a
seeing what you
yurt.
can find, see
Yeah.
what you can, if find some,
Yeah.
have some help maybe from Vanderwall or something. take a
yeah, I'll look into that, and the short-term rental
Okay.
language I'll check into a little bit with our attorney as well, and some other communities, but I'm happy just chugging along on this again. I think there's some other folks that I haven't been able to reach out to yet that I know that have been interested in this, so I wanna make sure they're looped in before we get too far down the road, but let's, if you guys are okay with it, take another month, get some more ideas and feedback, and then if we feel like we're at the point where we're all in agreement on this, we can start looking at actually crafting the ordinance, take a look at that, and then get the public hearing.
Perfect. All right, yeah.
My only other recommendation would be, I don't think that we need to or want to specify that it needs to be masonry, hardy plank siding, or vinyl siding. I think that it should be compatible with other structures in the neighborhood, you know, something
There
generic
Yeah.
there you
like
go,
that.
there you go. Yep,
Not necessarily on the lot.
And the same thing with the architectural aesthetic. You don't want to have if you're in a neighborhood of one-story ranch homes, you don't want to have a three-story, you know, walk
Treehouse.
uptown. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, that raises a whole another question is, are they limited to one story?
Yeah, I think, in this height section, they would be, I think, limited to 15 feet. If there's a multiple story home and you wanted to build over, a garage, you could go up to, she's suggesting
25,
25 feet
yeah.
here. But no taller than the principal structure.
But again, at that point, you're utilizing an existing structure and you're not building a brand new structure.
Yep.
So, okay,
I mean, I suppose you could build a new detached garage with a unit above.
but that's a
you
new
have to
structure.
Keep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Build onto that.
Anything
Okay.
else? That works?
Okay, I'll come back with
Have at it.
more, but hopefully, I think we're narrowing
We're getting there,
down
yeah.
on what we
All
want
right.
here, so.
Good, thank you very much, Elise. Okay. Been through that. Move on to communication, there's no other unfinished business, right? Move on to communication miscellaneous business, status of public and private development projects. Lauren?
Okay. I was not sure I was going to be here tonight, so I wrote a list, and now I'm going to use it because I wrote it, and I'll remember things better this way. So just going down the list, for public projects, we've got the wastewater treatment plant. That one's still going. It's on schedule and it's generally on budget. There was a really nice update, as there is every month, in the last village board packet. Those are great because they also chart how we are paying out versus how we expected to. So those are really nice. For Richards Road, that is lumped into the wastewater project overall. The one thing to note on that one is that construction was originally planned for fall and winter, and we found out in about the last month that actually the contractor is looking at moving it up to the summer. So that has not been formalized yet, but once it is, we'll bring the new schedule back here to the board, and then of course publicize it so that people know what's going on. Well 3 and well 6 are at this point kind of on the same schedule. They're both scheduled to finish up and start commissioning in mid-March. So hopefully have 2 wells back online and going here in just over a month. The Alpine and CC project, we did receive bids on those in late January. The bids were below the engineer's estimate. We are still working with the county to figure out how that will be paid as far as what they are willing to cost share on versus what they are not going to cost share on. So we're hoping to bring a bid recommendation to the village board on either the 16th or the 2nd of March, depending on how quickly they figure that out. The Gary Dish Park project, we have also received bids for that. They have been analyzed and recommendations are gonna go to the park board next week and flip to the village board without objection on the 16th. Park and Waterman Street intersection, as well as the senior center, both of those are out to bid. They are separate projects and they are coming back on different dates. So senior center, bids are due on the 10th, next Tuesday. Park and Waterman intersection, those bids are due on next Thursday, the 12th. The East Lincoln Street project, and that is, as a reminder, between North Main Street and North Perry Parkway, that is also out for bid. That one's out of our hands. That one is being done through the STP, the Surface Transportation Program Urban Program. partially funded by federal dollars, and so WISDOT has at this point taken it over. They are running the bidding, and then they will also do the primary construction inspection out there. So those bids also due on the 10th, so hopefully we will have some numbers on those on either the 10th or 11th, depending on how fast the state moves there. Two projects that are kind of floating around, but just so they're on your radar, there is a partial roof replacement at the Public Works Garage that we are looking at. So that one did go out to bid actually last year. We did not receive any bids. The timing wasn't great on that. So we are putting that out next week to bid. We'll get bids back on that at the end of February. And then we do have a request for proposals for master planning and design services for Bethel Greenacre Park. Those will be due, the proposals on those are due on the 13th, so also next week. It's going to be a very busy week next week. So that should be fun. We have had some interest in that. I think I've had at least 3 people reach out with questions and interest on proposing on that, which is great. So private development, just on the subdivision side, and I'll let Elise cover anything on kind of the structure side. Greenview Preserve Phase 4, we have gotten engineering plans for those, and they're deep into review with Rupert Milkie. They are planning construction in 2026, although I don't think we have a firm start date, and we are working on a developer's agreement. But I would expect that to start up probably in the early part of this year. Highlands of Netherwood, phases 4B and 5, we do not have any schedule on that yet from the developer. We're still waiting. They've made noises. I know that they are working on it, but we don't know anything at this time. And lastly, because I have gotten some questions, there was a park built with the Greenview Preserve Phase 1 project that has been completed at this time. It has not been accepted by the village. So we're hoping to accept it. We're treating it essentially as we do a street project. So we need that warranty on it. So it looked really good when it was put into place, but we just want to make sure all the grass comes up. There's nothing that needs to be fixed before we take ownership of it. So that will hopefully be accepted this year.
Thank you.
I think the only other project I wanted to mention, and then I had another date here to add for the next agenda item to save the date if you wanted to attend. But not sure if I mentioned this at the January meeting, but there's a grant opportunity that the village was presented with for 235 North Main Street Pocket Park. So that's the former 249 North Main Street. Yep. So many numbers. Yeah.
247, 249.
247, yep. The old new library site now, where the North Point Main Street townhomes are. So if you remember, we sold them 2 acres. Those townhomes are now occupied. And then we split the parcel and we have about 0.7 acres of park there. So some of the funding that was given actually for the Habitat project on Janesville Street and then also for North Point's project is the CDBG DR, so Community Development Block Grant. My brain is tired this week. So there are about $400,000 remaining in funds that are federal funds that were given to Dane County. It's related to the 2018 flooding that was out in the Cross Plains area. So it has to be spent in Dane County on projects, infrastructure, or housing that's related to serving low and moderate income families. So because that parcel had not been subdivided yet, a lot of the due diligence that North Point had to do in order to qualify for their funding makes that park parcel eligible for these funds. The village wouldn't be eligible ourselves because our median income is too high across the village. So there's an opportunity to do some improvements in that park and use that grant funding. It's not a loan, just a grant, and it actually would be kind of administered through North Point in order to qualify for the funds. So they would take care of all the grant reporting, they would do the construction, but at our direction. They wouldn't be putting anything into the park that we didn't support. And so we did a neighborhood engagement meeting last week, which is pretty sparsely attended, but we got a thumbs up from the neighborhood to continue on, which they wanted to kind of hear that the neighbors were in support of taking advantage of this opportunity because we weren't planning park improvements until about 2029 out there. So that might still stay in the CIP, but there's an opportunity to have some stuff in there sooner. So we'll probably be doing more surveys and meeting with different stakeholders, daycares and schools and stuff in the area to understand what people would like to see out there. The catch is that all the construction has to be done by September 30th of this year. So it's not going to be a big park project. It's not a huge park. There's beautiful old oak trees and some topography out there. So there's a lot of park amenities that wouldn't qualify or fit out there. So it'll be something small. It's not going to have likely off-street parking. It's meant to be a neighborhood park that you walk to. But excited to see where that goes, and that we might have some stuff coming to you guys as well. But that's going to be a pretty quick burn to get that stuff installed and be able to take advantage of that money. And then just before you mentioned the planning commission dates, this is an optional for you guys, but we will list it for possible quorum, joint meeting of the village board and the Fitchburg City Council at the Oregon Public Library on Wednesday, February 25th, 5:30 p.m., probably until 6:30 or 7. If you haven't heard yet, we are working, CARPC is kind of serving as the third-party mediator, but we're working with Fitchburg to explore options for some kind of joint development on the north end of the village and the south end of Fitchburg off of North Main Street, County Highway MM. So there's been a variety of different stakeholder meetings with property owners. They've met with the village and the city, different staff, different board members too. So there'll be a report and a presentation at that meeting on the 25th if you'd like to attend. I imagine that'll be published in a packet and everything as well, and we can certainly include it in the March or April packet for the Planning Commission if we have time. But you're welcome to attend. It'll be in the community room at our library that evening.
All right, thank you. That's it?
Yep.
All right, plan staff meeting agenda is attached. You want to review it. Any future item meeting for the meetings? Any future items that you're thinking about? Nothing? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Phil, I gotta do your, how'd you do yours? So much more efficient. Without objection. Without
For you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
We would never hit 12 drunk. Never send it drunk. Do a stoppie drunk. We would never drift drunk. So you should never drive drunk. Drive